President Trump making his expectations clear this week. He wants unwavering loyalty and won't tolerate any dissent. Nowhere was that more clearly on display than the televised cabinet meeting lasting over 3 hours, in which Trump's team, quote, took their turns, each working a little bit harder than the last to offer Mr. Trump praise.
You made this country safe. You opened up the economy. You enforced the law.
It's just such a great opportunity, really, to recognize your leadership as a true champion for working people.
Sir, as we've said very often, economic security is national security, and our country has never been so secure thanks to you. You have brought us back from the edge.
Mr. President, I invite you to see your big, beautiful face on a banner in front of the Department of Labor, because you are really the transformational president of the American worker.
Well, this is the banner the Labor Secretary was referring to, unfurled, in fact, this week outside the department headquarters. Michael Hardaway and former Representative Charlie Dent are back with us. So, guys, Michael, you first. When you look at everything together, endless praise at that televised cabinet meeting, National Guard soldiers patrolling D.C. in the shadow of a giant banner of Trump's face, trying to take over running Union Station from Amtrak, firings at the CDC. Does this reflect democracy or something else?
What a sad sack of sycophants. I mean, the idea that they are praising this guy who is overseeing one of the worst economies in a very long time is shocking. I was actually in Beijing once, and I saw a giant poster just like that of President Xi at the airport, because that's what Donald Trump hopes to be, which is a dictator. And that's frankly what Speaker Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Thune have allowed him to do, which is behave like a dictator. You have this shameful episode of The Apprentice, I guess that's what this was, this cabinet meeting where they just heap praise on this guy, notwithstanding the fact that you have 7 million Americans who are unemployed. You have skyrocketing credit card debt. You've got skyrocketing food prices. Across the board, Americans are struggling financially, and they're wasting time heaping praise on this guy. It's shameful across the board. The thing about the Trump era that we should remember is not just that he was a crook, but the scores of people who enabled him, even though they knew better.
You know, Charlie, one op-ed in The Hill argues those Trump banners reveal his, quote, authoritarian ambition. In fact, Max Burns writes, up until now, presidents haven't needed to be glorified in this way, but Trump's, quote, need for validation is leading our nation down the dark path of strongman autocracy from which few countries have returned. Is Burns overreacting? And if not, Charlie, what's to stop it?
Well, look, he might be overreacting a little bit, but it is kind of scary and it's frightening, frankly, that the president of the United States image has to be hung over government buildings. And you know, in watching that cabinet meeting, I was just relieved nobody used the term "dear leader," I guess. But it's certainly something that we don't expect to see in democratic societies. We don't see this in Western Europe or Japan or you know, or Australia or Canada, and certainly not in the United States. But we are now seeing it, which it sends a signal that this type of glorification of the president is well, it's almost undemocratic, I guess. But I just hope that it doesn't go beyond this. But I would like to think that more Republicans would push back on this. They cannot feel comfortable with any of these types of images being draped over government buildings. It's really unsettling.
You know, Michael, California Governor Gavin Newsom also warned about the country slipping into authoritarianism and predicted Trump will resist leaving office. Listen to this.
I don't think Donald Trump wants another election. You think for a second you want... I have 24 Trump 2028 hats. His folks keep sending me.
And you think he's going to run again?
No, don't give me. You don't. Who spends $200 million on a ballroom at their home and then leaves the house? This is serious.
You may have just heard former White House attorney Ty Cobb say to me in the last segment, the last question I asked him, what is it that Trump has not yet done that you worry he will do? And he said, very simply, try to stop an election. So is Trump trolling, or is he serious when he jokes about sticking around through 2028 or running again? I mean, regardless of our constitutional constraints, why does he keep talking about Trump 2028?
He's dead serious. I mean, this is the way that he operates. He floats something as a joke. and then he actually ends up doing it. I have real concern that we may not have a free and fair election in the midterm elections next year and in the presidential in 3.5 years. And so I think for all of us who care about this democracy, we should take him at his word and stop assuming that things are just going to work out because they always have. He's broken nearly every rule that there is as it relates to being president of the United States. There's no reason we should assume that he wouldn't break this one as well, specifically because he's joked about it so many times.
Last word to you on this, Charlie. What do you fear, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to think that he is trolling. But again, this is very unsettling that he continues to float this idea of running in 2028. It's clearly something that he is not permitted to do under the law or under the Constitution. And should he decide he wants to run for a third term, now there is your there is your crisis. And at some point, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to have to stand up and stop this from happening. But it's frightening. I mean, all this stuff is frightening and unsettling. We wish it would all go away, but I don't know. I wish none of us really know how this is going to end, but I fear it could end badly. We saw what happened after the 2020 election. It ended very badly with the assault on the Capitol, and we all just fear that something similar could happen again.
Okay, Charlie and Michael, you guys have a good Labor Day weekend. I'll see you again soon. Thank you much. On the road again for the last holiday weekend of the summer.